Welcome, everybody. Dr. Bill Janeshak on the Conquering Stress podcast. And as of this recording, it is National Nutrition Month. It's March. This is 2025 as we're doing this, but March is always National Nutrition Month. So we wanted it. So if you watch this in the future, don't worry about it. The context is still going to be good. As I was sitting around thinking, I'm like, well, what do people know about nutrition, and what are we really trying to do? And a lot of times when I talk or speak or I'm getting into stuff, I actually go back up and look at the words. I look at the etymology. I was saying that wrong. Etymology, which is the study, the breakdown. What's the root word? What's the original definitions? And how was it used initially? Because we tend to screw up words after a while. And sometimes if we just slow down, we'll be able to get a little bit more clarity on what we're talking about. So if you're ever confused on anything, sometimes just go back down, break it down to first principles, which is why do we believe what we believe, and see what you can go with that. So in this case, I was going, all right, well, what's the definition of nutrition? Do you know? What do you think it is? So the definition going back over is it's the taking in and use of food and other materials by the body. Pretty basic, right? Until we kind of look at it. Food, which we always think about, okay, what's good nutrition? If you go to a nutritionist, you're going to be talking about food. If you're going to anything you'd like that, and that is correct. However, there's the other point over there, and it's other materials. It's taken in by food and other materials for the body. And this is for not only taking in, but use of. So to expand on this a little, we said, I've come up with NEWtrition, NEWtrition, for those people listening. And, but it's nutrition. I want you guys to think a lot of, or more about everything that goes into your body that is used for its growth and fighting off disease and optimum health and living and everything else. Because just like stress, if you're listening to this channel, you know stress is physical, chemical, and emotional. Health is physical, chemical, and emotional. And nutrition, NEW, is physical, chemical, and emotional. It is the food, it's the supplements, it's the herbs, it's everything else that we take. But we want to break it down even more to what other nutrients or materials are used by the body. So I'm a chiropractor. First and foremost, I like to play and I like to run around, and moving the body is a rabbit hole that I love to go through because it's so important. But society, especially nowadays, it's like, what do we shove in our pie hole? What do I eat to be keto? What do I eat to lose weight? What do I eat to drop my blood sugar? What do I eat to do this? What do I stick in my pie hole to make my body do something? We still have a drug taking mentality. It's taking something from the outside of the body so that it will create something that we want. The body is just an awesome functioning thing, much more than just levers and pulleys and little machine parts that are going around. We work wonderfully together, and it's magical. Movement is just like that. In movement, just like there is fats, carbs, proteins, hormones, digestive enzymes, neurotransmitters in the thing. In movement, we can have these little bits of nutrition that come from how we move our body. Range of motion is a nutrient to the body. How much we move our joints and our muscles and our ligaments and our tendons and our fascias and our meniscus and our discs and everything else that is part of the movement. The skin is a movement. All the stuff that moves the body sends signals. And the signals that are going through the brain and moving through the body, they create proteins, which create a signaling device, which will create a chemical. Just like food, when you break it down, you bite an apple, you chew it up, you break it down into these little things, and it goes to nourish the body in different building blocks. Movement is exactly the same way. If I move my arm one way, That's going to stimulate a certain portion of my brain to create a certain neurotransmitter, to create an action, to create a protein to set things off to help that muscle grow. We then use the physical nutrients that we've stuck down our pie hole to actually bring that to fruition. But when we come into the materials that we're doing, the material is a nerve impulse, and it's what happens when there's a physical or electrical component that turns into a chemical component, and those are the materials that we use in movement. This is exactly how, and I've covered this on other episodes, is high intensity exercise actually changes the structure of the brain. The brain is it feels it's like a jello mold, actually. It's about that consistency inside your head. And when you're exercising, it actually changes. Can you imagine having like one of those green jellos, and then if you exercised it, it turned into like the red one with all the fruits and cool things. It's still jello, but it's totally different. And I should say it's more delectable and delicious as well. Those lime green jellos aren't that great. I think we give those to the kids we don't like them when we invite them to our party. But that's one thing that'll happen. Stretching is the same thing. It's part of a range of motion, but it's about how far your muscles are able to stretch comfortably and conveniently, or just if you're doing stretching exercises. It's sort of like a lot of time I'll explain it like this. If you had a bow, like with a bow and arrow, and you could only pull the string back just so much, how much force would that arrow take off with? Well, if I only pull it back half an inch or something, it's just going to almost just drop in front of me. But if I had the ability to pull that arrow back and put some tension into that, and then you get all that kinetic energy, all that energy that goes, and then you release it, it's going to launch. It's the same thing that we do with every little muscle in our body. If we're sitting over here, we're riding a desk all day, and all we do, and remember, our bodies adapt to what we do the most, not what we do with best intentions. But if we're riding a desk all day and we drive to work, and then we sit and we scroll on our phone, and then we sit and watch Netflix or binge watch, Yellowstone, and then cuddle up in our bed. And if we don't move a lot, we adapt to that situation. So muscles get shorter because if you don't use them, you lose them, and they get shorter and they adapt to what you do. So if you don't have a good range of motion, you can't pull that back. You're not getting any power and any movement. You're not getting any stimulus into the brain. You're going to be walking around with a lime jello brain, and we want you to have a red. I don't even know what kind that is, cherry or strawberry, filled with fruit kind of brain going on. We want you to have the best one that's going on. And that goes back over to the next thing. Another nutrient that we have in our body is strength. In fact, two of the three key indicators for longevity are strength. It is the circumference of your thigh, which is the biggest group of muscles in the body. So how big your thighs and how strong your thighs are, and how strong your grip strength are two of the main components that we can judge chances of longevity in you. It has to do with strength. As we get older, as we get more mature in our lives, we tend to lose muscle mass. We're not we don't have a lot of growth hormones. We don't have a lot of stem cells going around. We tend not to move as much as we did when we were younger. So naturally, the body's going to kind of, you'll lose muscle mass, especially if you're not doing anything to maintain it, consistently. And and so when these things break down, we don't have a lot of nutrients left to it. We can't climb the hill or the stairs, or we can't navigate, you know, terrain that may be a little unsteady. We start to work slower and more methodically, and we don't have that sharpness. One of the things that's really important, if you dare to take the mission, is start getting upside down. If you remember when we were kids, that we would do somersaults, or we would spin around in circles, we would stand on our heads and get held upside down by our favorite aunt or uncle and get swung around, and it was so much fun. You fast forward from there to being 35 years old, and people get upside down and they get dizzy and nauseous, and they go, "Oh, I'm never going to do that again." The brain likes the brain likes a variety, things to adapt with. It's like the brain lifting weights. If I go and curl 10 pounds and I do that all the time, it's no longer a challenge. It's nothing big to me. It's not a big deal. But if we threw in 25 pounds or 45 pounds later on, well, the body starts to adapt to that and it starts to grow. Remember, we will always go back over and adapt to things that we do most frequently, not what we do with best intentions. So by changing these things up sort of on a semi-regular basis, we start to grow those strength and we start to turn that lime jello brain into a fruity red brain. One of my favorite things is to talk about because it encompasses everything and nobody really talks about in movement is called proprioception. It's the most abundant types of nerves in your body. And proprioception, like I was just saying about the somersaults and getting upside down, it's proprioception is how we perceive things. Where are we in time and space? So if I close my eyes, even with my eyes closed, I can put my finger on my nose because my body kind of has this GPS detector about, well, I know where the big nose is and I know where the little stubby finger is. So we just have to calculate through that based on the range of motion, joint position, all this other stuff. It's doing all this quantum calculating in our brain to find out where we are. This is exactly how we keep balance. And if you've been in my office or if you've seen a video when I'm working with a patient, so one of the first things that I always do is I have them do a field sobriety test. We have them stand up on one leg and I have them balance on one leg. I want to see, can they keep their balance? Do they have to move their leg quickly to do that? Can they do it at all? Are they apprehensive or all these other things? In clinical aspect, this is called Romberg's test, and it's a test for the cerebellum, which is uh, that is the part of the brain. It looks like that little cauliflower thing in the back of the brain. If you can picture a like a picture of the brain from the side, but it's like a little battery power pack. It's responsible for coordinating small, fine movements, and it's also to organizing the brain to make sure it kind of orchestrates a movement. The field sobriety test, why do they do that? They want to know, Buford T. Justice pulls you over. I know I'm aging myself, but just deal with it. Uh, the cop will pull you over, and he will come over and say, "You've been drinking much, ma'am." Or sir, please get out. And they'll have you walk a straight line first because that requires balance. Then they'll have you stand on one foot to see if you can keep your balance. Because if you can't keep your balance, it means that your brain's impaired. And if they're going to sniff around you and you smell like Jack Daniels and bourbon and malt duck or whatever else that you've been drinking, you're going to jail because you're driving around neurologically impaired. That means that your reflexes don't work really well. You can't guide, your coordination's off. And this is why we slur our words when we're drinking. Well, bros and chicks, all you, I don't want to leave anybody out. It's the same thing that if we don't use our brain, if we don't have those proprioceptive fibers, those nutrients that we get from movement to light up the brain and coordinate the muscles and being quick to the motion, we're walking around basically drunk. We're nowhere near our capacity, and it's the same thing that if you didn't take your vitamins and you knew that you were deficient in vitamin D and you didn't take your vitamin D and now you have bent bones from rickets and everything because you have a vitamin deficiency. If you have a movement or proprioception deficiency, you're not going to be able to balance. You're not going to have quick coordinated motions. You ever watch somebody like elderly? You ever watch them fall and they lose their balance a little and they're not quick enough to put their foot out and stop themselves, and it's almost like everything happens in slow motion. It's like oh my God, I'm falling. And you're going like, that happens so slow. Why could they not just catch themselves? They don't have the reaction. They don't have that quick thing. They don't have that proprioception. They don't have the body's ability to move that. And when we talked about strength, they don't have the strength to put their foot out and stop themselves from falling. And that's why it just kind of slowly happens. It's a nutrient. It's a nutrient to the brain in movement. But all movement's going to be important because it keeps things going. So what happens? We'll go back to eating. If you're eating food, if you're having a nice salmon, you're having some avocados, you're having some other, you're getting a nice heart healthy meal, high in fats, high in omega-3 fatty acids, good in proteins, and it's just stocked full of minerals and everything else going on, and it's heart healthy. Well, it goes and builds a big heart, but what does that heart have to do to actually be healthy? Well, he had a strong heart. Okay, how do you get strong? You have to move it. You have to move it under stress, and you have to move it in different environments. You have to have it move just like lifting a weight. The heart is a muscle. It's made from cardiac muscle, and you have to move that. So you feed the heart something, and then you have to move it. You can feed it perfectly with the most perfect heart healthy food that builds the most beautiful heart. But if it just sits there, it what happens when you don't use something? Again, it's if you don't use it, you lose it. And have you heard? Well, he had a really strong heart, and he really came back. People will talk about, well, he won the game because he just had strong. It's the ability to react, but there are also those times going, well, he really didn't make it through the surgery because, well, he had a weak heart going in. So there's not enough energy in that heart to pull. Movement is just as important as sticking great things in your pie hole. And they go together, and they should, because we are not levers and pulleys and just a bunch of gears where we can replace one thing. Everything has an effect on everything else, and that's the heart. That's how we're moving, and it kind of makes sense if we're looking at nutrition, NEW. We're gonna do that. I think I'm gonna copyright that or trademark that or whatever it is where I can own it and you can't. So uh, if we're looking at that, we want to give the substrate, and this is the stuff just traditionally we think about nutrition. We want to put good things in for healthy skin, healthy ear, great muscles, good stomach, taking care of the gut, probiotics, digestive enzymes, everything that we talk about that are great things. But in new NEW nutrition, once we've assimilated and absorbed that, we've got to move it. We've now filled the Lamborghini up with gas. We've shined the engine, or we've shined the body and tuned up the engine, put rocket fuel over there. We have a brand new Elvis Presley album in there. Well, maybe it's not a new one that he just recorded, but we bought a brand new one with all the Elvis's greatest hits on it, and we're popping it out, and then we never take it out of the garage. It does nothing. All it is a good Instagram selfie that you can rent out to fake influencers to rent out and pretend like it's theirs for a while. So it still does, it's better than it sitting there rotting, but it's not what it's made for. So that's probably a really simple segue for you to understand. If you're going, yeah, you know what? I only thought about nutrition as the foods and the supplements and a little detox, and I have to do my gut protocol and my skin protocol and my eye protocol, my anti-inflammatory stuff. It kind of makes sense, right? And then you got to move. Oh, I like walking, and I should go exercise, and I should lift some weights, and I'm doing yoga and Pilates and Zumba and Orange Theory and, well, pickleball. I can't forget pickleball because everybody's into pickleball now. Am I the only person that's never seen a pickleball court and has never played a game? Let me know if I'm the only person. If I am, or if there's another one of us outliers there. Maybe you and I should together and go watch a pickleball thing. But I digress. Whatever we're doing to get that going, we want that moving. You can see how nutrition is going to up your physical game. Whether you're an urban athlete, a professional athlete, or whatever, your nutrition and movement is going to make you a healthy person. But or and uh, there's another component. Stress is physical, chemical, and emotional. And the other components that we don't see are going to be our thoughts. Wait a minute, what's that have to do with everything? It has to do everything with what you're doing because your thoughts are actually things as well. There are components of things, just like we have electrons act as uh, mass particles and waves. It's the same thing that when we think things out there, it creates, now in the mind, it goes out there in a vibration. It actually leaves our body. So our thoughts are actually, we think they're in our heads, but once they hit once they become something, there's a vibration or there is a frequency that it puts out and it goes outside of your head. It's like an antenna. So in the brain, and remember the mind is not the brain, but in the brain it creates neurotransmitters and it creates synapses, which are when a nerve fires, he finds something to associate that with. So if you think about true love and your first pet dog, in your brain you're going to have those two memories and they're going to hook up. They're going to start to associate. So when you think of a dog, you're going to have this loving memory. When you think of true love, you're going to have to associate that dog, and you can build on those. And that's called summation, and that's building things up. But if you're thinking good thoughts and you're thinking something positive and I'm out and I'm doing wonderful things, it changes your physiology. So it changes how you digest and absorb food. It changes how you move, how frequently, how intensely that you'll move based on your thoughts and your emotions. And thoughts and emotions kind of go hand in hand. You're going to feel that. So let me give you an example. So if you were stressed, anybody out there been stressed? So if you're stressed, are you um, are you in a good state, a good relaxed state so that your body can create digestive enzymes? You can slow your breathing down. You can start to salivate, and you go like this, and your body's in a good place to uh, digest food. Or does your body think it's running away from a saber-toothed tiger? It has no time to digest food, make any enzymes. It's singly focused, and your heart rate's going, and you're just ready to run a marathon. Most people would say, if I'm stressed out, I'm the latter. So that's not a good time to eat. Humans are the only animals that I know of that have been studied that can think a thought and change their physiology. And I use the analogy a lot. We've all had that, that dream, that dreaded, nightmare, and then you hurry up and wake up, and then your heart is beating, and you're sweating, and you're like, oh. That didn't happen. That was imaginary. That was in your head. Yet you had a true physiological response. We do the same thing every day when we're worried about traffic and we're worried about, did I get enough likes on my Instagram, and what did the neighbors say about me, and am I going to get my deadline done at work? And so we start to stress ourselves out. So the thoughts are going to be very important in part of nutrition because those components of thoughts are influencing you. And it's just like if you decided to go have a you know a glyc glyphosate. I can't even pronounce it now. But so the GMOs, all the pesticides on it, and you're going to wrap it over in trans fatty acids and fake sugars. You're not gonna have a good body. You don't have the portions to make the body. Same thing goes on with your thoughts. That's going to go on. We're also going to look at the other things that are going when your thoughts and your beliefs uh, if you believe in a higher power, you can be God, the universe, Jesus, Mohammed, Buddha, whatever your deal is. But that thought of a higher purpose in Maslow, the great psychologist that came up with the hierarchy of needs, showed that the greatest portion of a person is when they get what they call self-actualization, where they realize that they've done all that they've can for themselves, and it's about being connected to something higher or bigger than themselves. And like I said, it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or you're a new age guru hippie or an old age guru hippie. Uh, as soon as you start thinking about more than yourself, you start to bring in community. And then when you start bringing in community and you have this focus on you, you tend to think more about gratitude. I'm just really thankful to be here, and and I'm going, and then you start thinking about love, and you start thinking about these positive emotions that actually have been shown to put you back in that parasympathetic thought where you're calm, the the brain waves change, the heart patterns change, your digestive enzymes start coming up because you're in this calm state and you're not all worked up. This is the part where we can go over and actually heal and repair, sleep soundly, grow muscle. We get nice hormones and neurotransmitters going through our body, and we're living a life in a different state. Um, and when you're in a different state, you have different filters. And that part of nutrition is by keeping all those little things. If these were little thought snacks and you're eating good food, healthy food that came from the ground that no one uh, you know stepped on, sprayed with anything, peed on, and you're doing good movement and your body's moving in different patterns and different ways and you're building strength, that's a positive thing. And when you're thinking better thoughts and you're in a great state, you're growing, you're really helping yourself out. What also goes back on over is going to be your goals. Someone that has goals is thinking about the future. Unless your goal is very evil, which maybe, I don't know. But if you have a goal, say next year I want to go to Europe, and you're looking in, okay, 6 months I'm going to take off, and we're going to go to Europe, and I want to go to London. I want to see Big Ben. I want to see the Eiffel Tower, and you're having this excitement, this forward thinking thing when you're thinking. Um, Grow, you're going to have more experiences, and you have an imagination that's going on that that is putting you in a good state. There's something to look forward to there. You're constantly going forward. You're physically and mentally moving forward. This gives you a good snack to take, a mental snack that you're having. You've got to have some sense of purpose at getting up. And that's different. And it's harder on people that have been retired or recently retired. There's two types of retired people that I've seen. There's the man who that always said, or the woman, when I retire, I'm gonna build an add-on onto my house. I'm gonna have second story, back room, something that they've always dreamed of. They retire, they stop with they they finally take a couple weeks off. They're used to not going to work now. Then they run off to Home Depot, start making plans. They spend several months on this project of this passion project that they have. They finally build it, christen it, move the TV in, sit there, watch Matlock, Fox News, and World War II videos until they die 5 years later. I joked about that for the longest time because I've known three people that have done that, and I've watched them do that. But then the insurance industry came out with a study that says, on average, the average man lives 5 years after retirement. And the point is because they've had this vision when I retire. So I'm going to retire, then I'm going to do this, and it could be it doesn't have to be an add-on. It could be climb a mountain. It could be make the world's largest pizza. It doesn't really matter. But they have this thing. They wake up in the morning whistling and happy because they're making progress on something that they thought that puts them in a better environment. It's a nutrient for the brain. Remember, thoughts and feelings are nutrients. They're physical components that have an impact on the body that the body absorbs and uses. That's the definition of nutrient. And and then they just stop. They never think about, okay, what's next? After I finish one goal, what else can I do? Should I learn how to code a computer? Should I volunteer at my church? They don't do that. They stop and they sit there and they rot in their chair as they watch, Jeopardy and Matlock. So on the same thing, the other type of retired person I see is the ones that they come in and they volunteer at church, or they get a second job that pays crap, but they're just happy being around people. They're just happy doing what they can. People are best and happiest when they're actually working. People always want to retire to stop, but study after study, and this will go on and on, is shows that people are most happy while they're progressing. They're doing something. They feel purposeful in their life. It makes them happy. Having a purpose or reason or something to do helps you get out of bed. There's a reason to get out of bed. If you don't have a reason to get out of bed, you won't. And if you don't get out of bed, you're not going to move. And if you don't move and you're older, you're going to get weaker. Then when you're weak, you're going to get stressed. And when we get stressed, we eat like crap. And then we're putting bad things into a bad body. And this is how sick people die. Slowly, 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 they just degrade. So this is going to be very important. So with that being, it's your environment that's going to do that, because some of this stuff is part of your environment, so your mental environment. Your physical environment is going to have the same thing. Where do you live? What's your house look like? What is the things within your house or around your community? And are you going to have good things or bad things? These are the physical things in your environment, and what they kind of represent. So everything that goes around is a kind of a trigger or a thought or memory. You could have a picture of grandma and grandpa in the corner of your house, and the first thing you look at, you think, "Oh, I love grandma and grandpa," or "Oh, grandma and grandpa, I have that in the house because I should, but I remember, her beating me with a stick when I was little, and boy, I hate that bitch." Everybody's different, but look about the stuff that you have in your house and said, okay, is this supporting me in my nutrition? Is am I taking things out? Are these making good things in my body that I'm going to be absorbing? And sometimes what I'll have patients we're working on more transformational stuff. First thing that I have them do is take everything out of their bedroom and paint it different color, everything else. Start changing the stuff. Put the bed in a different position. Change this around. Change the drawers where your sock is. And change that with your underwear drawer, and move things around, because you've got to interrupt a pattern. If you're not stoked with the way you're living, change things up. It's Dispenza's work about breaking the habit of being yourself. If you haven't seen that book, that's a really good book to do. But it's the same thing that we talk about in NLP. We've got to break the current pattern that we're in to change things out. When you do that, you have to change a thought, you have to change an action. All these things are physical things that your body is using and absorbing to be healthy. Um, One of the biggest things that we're talking when we're environment is grounding. I've talked about it before. Grounding, they call it earthing, they'll call it forest bath, because that's when you're actually out in a nature environment. It could be a forest, could be a beach, it could be a walk in the desert, it could be the mountains, whatever it is. When there is a lot of nature around you, that uh, there's the hippie version, and then there's the science version or the mechanism. The hippie version is that, hey man, we're all just part of the same universe, so we should hold hands and sing Kumbaya. And that is absolutely true. We should hold hands, maybe hug and cuddle, and then we can go back over and we sing Kumbaya. It's a part of actually when you do that, you feel like, well, you realize that you're part of a bigger plan than just, am I first in line at Starbucks today? You can see the broader picture and how small we are, and it tends to have a calming effect. The mechanism that happens during this that helps you kind of put good things in your body and have a healthy environment is the earth is a giant magnet, and magnets give off negative ions. When we have our mostly our skin, but if we're in that environment, there's an ion exchange between our bodies and this giant magnet that we're living on called Earth. And those negative ions are anti-inflammatory, and they're calming. They stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system uh, that calms you down. So if you go for a walk in the forest and you're surrounded by trees and you can hear the birds singing and you can smell the fresh air and all that stuff, you tend to be calm. If you're out by a big body of water, and a beach or an ocean or a big lake or a river, or even just a big pool or pond, you automatically feel more relaxed. Uh, and we all know this is because if you've ever gone camping, and you've been out there, I mean, real camping, not glamping, but you're out in nature, you're sleeping on the ground, you're fishing and you're hiking and you're breathing in real clean air that you can't even see before you breathe it. Um, you always wake up early and refreshed the next morning and you go, wow, I feel so early. That's how we're supposed to wake up every day because we're supposed to be in that environment. That environment's going to have a big effect. And if you wake up early and refreshed and you can smell coffee and you can hear, bacon sizzling away over there and laughter and everything else like that, how do you think your day is going to start? Those are all nutrients to your body. These are the unseen things. Your environment is a nutrient. Um, and the people that we think. So the famous quote by Jim Rohn says that you are the average of the five people that you hang out with the most. You have the average income of the people that you hang out with. You have the average fitness level. You have the average level of faith. It'll just go on and on. So it's the average of the people that are closest to you. And there was an interesting study from the New England Journal of Medicine from I think it was July 26, 2007, and it had to do. It's actually interesting if you've seen or watched or listened to the cholesterol podcast that I did. It was right around this time about the Farmington study of Massachusetts about how we came up with our cholesterol levels, the risk factors for heart disease, which don't be fat, don't have diabetes, uh, watch your salt intake. Uh, I forget what else they did, but anyways, that's the study that it came from 1948. Well, that study's ongoing. They're following the people and the generations, and one of the things that they came out with after studying these people for 30 years and looking at their environment was on weight loss. So they found that if your friend gains weight or becomes obese, you have a 57% chance of being obese yourself. If it's a friend and it's a same sex friend, so if you're a guy and your friend is also a guy and a chick, woman and woman, keep forgetting to be nice on here. Um, then you have a 71% chance if they become obese, then you will become obese. And it's even if they don't live near you. So if someone's in Farmington, Massachusetts, and we're chilling out in like Southern California, dude, but we were like totally friends before. So it doesn't, you don't have to be in the same place. You just have to be connected to them, more of an emotional connection. Like I said, even if you're not around. And it goes same thing with siblings, which is interesting, but it's not as strong uh, as it was. Siblings, if one of the siblings becomes obese or overweight, the other one has a 40% increase of the likelihood of doing the same. Spouses, so if you're married and your spouse gets overweight or obese, you have a 37% chance. And again, you don't even have to be in the same environment. I hope that you are if you're married, but it just shows the difference in your environment because your environment is physical and it's also mental. It's like, what tribe do you think that you belong to? Are you a pickleballer? If you're a pickleballer, you're gonna probably do things that pickleballers do because uh, you want everyone to know that you're within in that tribe. So you need, as part of our nutrition, is look at the surroundings. If the goal for nutrition is to take in things that our body can use that we can uh, fight off disease, grow our skeleton systems, have longevity, decrease inflammation, make sure that we're strong, we're virile, and we can take on saber-toothed tigers, and we can bounce back, and then we have enough energy to go around and live life on this great big blue magnetic marble that we have going on. If that's the point of nutrition on food, we got to do the same things in our movement, and then we've got to do something and look at what is our environment feeding us. And I don't mean this from a uh, global warming activist standpoint, but just in your environment, in your world, the room that you wake up in, and the what's in your refrigerator, what pictures are on your walls, what does your backyard and your front yard and your neighborhood look like? What is your community? What's your drive to work with? What's your work environment like? All that stuff is surrounding. Who are your friends? If your friends are like my friends, they're terrible. Oh my God. They have inappropriate comments, dark humor, nothing's ever serious, but they're my homies, and I tend to be the same way. So just look at that. So I want you thinking about nutrition as nutrition, NEW, and just like stress is physical, chemical, emotional, health is physical, chemical, and emotional. Nutrition is the same thing. We can break everything down in those three components, and you're not going to have true nutrition unless you look at all these other components and with the same excitement and focus that you will as you want to shove things in your pie hole to make you better, move things in your, well, maybe not in your pie hole, but move with the same vigor, think with the same vigor, put yourself in situations that are just as awesome as your meals. And also, you bring snacks to school. Do you bring good thoughts to school? Do you bring little movements to school? Are you doing all this other stuff? So, just a little insight. Uh, And I just wanted to send that out to you. So we're going to start talking about nutrition from now on. So we got that. This is Dr. Bill Janeshak with the Conquering Stress podcast. Until next time, thank you.